The country club glowed with golden lights. Laughter filled the air as waiters moved through the crowd with glasses of champagne. It was Raymond Carter's retirement party, and no expense had been spared. After 40 years in law enforcement, he was being celebrated like a hero. His friends, colleagues, and family were all dressed in their best. Jasmine Carter stood near the corner of the hall, quiet and unnoticed. She wore a long, simple blue dress. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and she held her small purse tightly. Around her, everyone smiled and mingled. Her husband, Daniel, stood by the bar, laughing with his cousins. He hadn't spoken much to her since they arrived. Amanda Carter, Jasmine's mother-in-law, moved through the crowd like she owned the place. Sharp heels, sharp voice. Her eyes found Jasmine quickly, narrowing. She walked over with a fake smile. "There you are," Amanda said. "Come with me." Jasmine followed her quietly. They reached the food table where the servers were loading small trays of drinks and snacks. Amanda picked one up, turned, and shoved it gently into Jasmine's hands. "Go serve your father-in-law and his guests," she said flatly. Jasmine blinked. "Now?" Amanda's voice dropped. "Yes. He's sitting with the senior officers." Go. Jasmine looked around, confused. No one else's daughter-in-law was carrying a tray. Her hands trembled slightly as she took it. She looked toward Daniel. He saw her. He looked away, said nothing. With slow steps, Jasmine moved into the crowd. People noticed. A few whispered. A few smiled awkwardly, unsure what to say. She reached Raymond's table and quietly offered the drinks. "Champagne?" she asked gently. Raymond looked up, gave a short nod, and took one. He said nothing. More guests took glasses. Jasmine kept her head down. Her arms hurt from holding the tray, but she didn't complain. Behind her, Amanda stood with a proud smile, as if this was normal, as if this was right. Jasmine's eyes burned, but she did not cry. She would not. She finished her round and placed the empty tray back on the table. Then she walked outside, just for air. The night breeze was cool against her skin. She stood alone under the string lights, heart pounding in her chest. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. She didn't say a word, but her silence was loud. That night, something broke in Jasmine, and she would never be the same again. Jasmine grew up with just her mother. Life wasn't always easy, but her mother loved her deeply. She taught Jasmine to be kind, respectful, and never cause trouble. People often said Jasmine was too quiet or too obedient, but her mother said, "That's your strength." Jasmine believed her. After college, Jasmine met Daniel Carter. He was charming, successful, and came from a well-known family. Jasmine thought she had found a man who would love her the way her mother had loved her. She dreamed of building a warm, happy home. So, when he proposed, she said yes without a second thought. But from the moment she married into the Carter family, everything changed. The Carters were cold. They cared more about how things looked on the outside than how people felt on the inside. Amanda, Daniel's mother, always looked Jasmine up and down as if she didn't belong. She would say things like, "You're lucky Daniel chose you," or "You weren't raised in a family like ours." To Amanda, Jasmine was a charity case, someone who should be grateful just to be there. Daniel didn't help. When his mother made hurtful comments, he would brush them off. "That's just how she is," he'd say. "Don't take it so seriously." Jasmine tried to speak up once, but Daniel got angry. After that, she stayed quiet. Their marriage was cold. Daniel came home late. He barely spoke to her unless it was about Leah, their daughter. He rarely asked how she was doing. Sometimes, Jasmine felt like a shadow in her own home. The worst part was the constant comparison. Daniel's ex-girlfriend had once come from a rich family. Amanda loved to bring her up. "She knew how to keep a home," Amanda would say loudly. "She was raised right." Jasmine smiled through it, but inside, it hurt. Still, Jasmine stayed. She stayed because of Leah. Leah was 5 years old, full of energy, with a bright smile and soft curls. When Jasmine held her close, the world felt a little lighter. Every night she whispered to her daughter, "You are smart, you are kind, and you are loved." Jasmine promised herself that Leah would not grow up feeling small. Jasmine worked as a kindergarten teacher. Her classroom was the only place where she felt alive. The children loved her. The parents respected her. It was her safe space. But even there, Amanda tried to interfere. One afternoon, Amanda called her and said, "I told the principal you won't be returning after this term. You need to focus on your family." Jasmine's heart sank. She hadn't agreed to anything. But Amanda had spoken for her, again. Daniel supported his mother, as always. "She's right," he said. "You don't need to work. We're fine." Jasmine didn't feel fine. She felt stuck. She had no voice in her own life, no space, no room to breathe. Each day, Jasmine woke up, made breakfast, packed Leah's lunch, smiled when needed, and stayed quiet when it hurt. From the outside, she looked like the perfect wife and mother, but inside, she felt like she was fading away. Late at night, when everyone was asleep, Jasmine sat by Leah's bed and watched her daughter sleep. She'd touch her soft curls and whisper, "You will not grow up like this." Promise. That promise gave her strength, not for herself, but for Leah, because deep down, Jasmine knew if she didn't break the cycle, her daughter would grow up thinking this was normal. That silence was strength, that being small was safer than being free, and Jasmine couldn't let that happen. The morning after the retirement party, the house was quiet. Jasmine moved slowly around the kitchen, making tea, trying to forget the shame she had felt the night before. But the memory of holding that tray, of the guests staring at her like she was a maid, wouldn't go away. She stepped out to the backyard to clear her head. That's when she heard Amanda's voice from the open dining room window. Amanda was laughing with two of her friends, speaking loudly, like she didn't care who heard her. "She should be grateful we even let her in this family," Amanda said. "She has no class, no background, but we made space for her, out of kindness." The words cut through Jasmine like a knife. Her hands shook as she gripped her tea mug. She stood there for a long moment, staring into the distance. Then she quietly walked back into the house. Later that afternoon, Jasmine waited until Leah was napping, then went to talk to Daniel in their bedroom. He was lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone. "Daniel," she said softly, "I heard your mother this morning. She said I should be grateful you all let me into this family." He didn't look up. So, how can you be okay with that? Do you think she's right?" Daniel sighed. "Jasmine, don't make problems where there are none. You know how my mum is. She talks too much sometimes. Let it go." "Let it go?" he asked, hurt. "You didn't defend me last night. You didn't say anything today. Do I matter to you at all?" Daniel sat up and looked at her with cold eyes. "You always find something to complain about. Maybe you're the problem." Jasmine didn't say another word. She just walked out of the room. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Jasmine received a letter in the mail from her late mother's lawyer. She opened it slowly, not knowing what to expect. Inside was a letter in a small envelope with a key. The lawyer explained that before her mother died, she had bought a small 2-bedroom house on the edge of town, quiet neighborhood, close to a park and a school. It was in Jasmine's name. Jasmine stared at the letter for a long time. Her hands trembled, but not from sadness this time. It felt like hope. Her mother had believed in her. Even in death, she had left her a way out. Jasmine folded the letter and held the key tightly. She went into the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor. Tears fell silently, not just from pain, but from the first feeling of strength she'd had in years. That night, Jasmine lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Thoughts swirled in her mind. Could she leave? Could she start over with Leah? Could she be free? But she also knew something else. Amanda and Daniel would never let her go easily. If she left, they'd try to take Leah. They'd lie. They'd twist the truth. She needed proof. She needed to show the world who they really were. So the next morning, Jasmine began her quiet plan. She started recording conversations. She saved text messages. She took notes of everything said and done. She stayed quiet on the outside, but inside she was preparing for the day she would walk away, because now she had a key, a house, a chance, and she would not waste it. Jasmine kept smiling on the outside, but inside, everything was changing. After receiving the key to her mother's hidden house, she knew she had to act smart. She started quietly recording things at home. When Amanda made rude comments, Jasmine recorded them. When Daniel ignored her or spoke harshly, she saved it. She took screenshots of texts, saved voicemails, and even wrote down notes after conversations. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She just watched and documented. Daniel noticed she was quieter than usual, but he didn't ask why. Instead, he grew colder. One morning, Jasmine went to buy groceries and found her debit card declined. Confused, she called the bank, only to learn Daniel had removed her from their joint account. That night, she asked him why. He shrugged. "You don't need money like that. I'll handle the bills. Focus on Leah and the house." Jasmine said nothing. She just nodded slowly, but inside, she added it to her growing file. A few days later, her school called. The principal sounded confused. Jasmine, your mother-in-law told us you're resigning, that you've decided to stay home full-time. Is that true? Jasmine felt like the ground slipped beneath her feet. No, she said quickly. That's not true. Please don't take any action until I speak with you in person. Her hands shook after the call. Amanda had gone behind her back again. She wanted Jasmine to stay home, to stay silent, to disappear. That night, Jasmine told her friend Erica everything. Erica worked at the same school and had always been kind to her. They sat in Jasmine's classroom after hours, both of them quiet at first. Then Jasmine spoke. I think I need to leave. I have a house. My mum left it for me, but they'll never let me take Leah without a fight. I need to show who they really are. Erica nodded. Whatever you need, I'm here. I'll help. That promise meant the world to Jasmine. One Friday afternoon, Jasmine made a quiet plan. She would take Leah on a weekend trip to the small house. Just the two of them. She wanted to see if they could feel safe there, even for a little while. She packed a small bag, picked up Leah from school, and drove away without telling anyone. For the first few hours, everything felt perfect. They stopped for ice cream. They sang songs in the car. Leah laughed like she hadn't in weeks. But by evening, everything fell apart. A police car pulled up to the house. 2 officers stepped out. Jasmine stepped outside, confused. Mom, we received a call from your husband. He says you may be experiencing a mental health crisis. He's worried about your daughter's safety. Jasmine's heart dropped. What? She said, stunned. That's not true. One officer looked at her kindly. We just need to ask you a few questions. Can we come in? They checked the house, spoke to Leah and to Jasmine. They didn't find anything wrong, but they still said Leah had to go back home for now, until things were sorted out legally. Jasmine stood on the porch, watching the car take her daughter away. Her chest hurt, like someone had crushed her lungs. After they left, Jasmine sat in her car. It was dark, cold, quiet. Then the tears came, loud, painful sobs that shook her whole body. She cried until her voice was hoarse, her face wet and red. Then, after a long time, she wiped her face. She sat up straight. Her hands were still shaking, but her eyes were calm. She whispered to herself, they want war. I'll give them the truth. And just like that, Jasmine knew she was ready. Not for revenge, but for justice. For her daughter. For herself. Jasmine walked into the courthouse with her head held high. She wore a simple dress, her hair tied back neatly, and her eyes calm. The papers had already been filed. She was officially asking for a divorce and full custody of Leah. When the news reached the Carter family, it spread like fire. Amanda stormed into Jasmine's school the next day, shouting in the parking lot, "How dare you? After everything we gave you, you ungrateful girl!" Jasmine didn't respond. She simply walked away. Later that night, Daniel called her. His voice was low, angry. "You really think you can take Leah from me? I'll fight you with everything I have." Jasmine stayed quiet for a moment, then said softly, "Then I hope you're ready for the truth." The court date came fast. Jasmine sat on one side with her lawyer. Daniel sat across from her, looking tired but still trying to act confident. Amanda sat behind him, stiff and angry, refusing to even look at Jasmine. The judge asked for opening statements. Then it was Jasmine's turn. Her lawyer stood and began presenting everything. Voice recordings of Amanda insulting her, text messages where Daniel ignored her, mocked her, emails from Daniel to a friend saying, "She's too quiet, but I know how to keep her in check." There were also statements from Erica and other co-workers. They shared how Amanda called the school pretending to be Jasmine, how Daniel took her money and tried to control her completely. Jasmine didn't look at Daniel during the presentation. She kept her eyes on the judge. She didn't cry. She just waited. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Daniel's phone records were brought in as evidence, part of the investigation into his behavior. In those records were late-night calls and messages, not to work, not to friends, but to Amanda's closest friend, Diane. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Can you explain the nature of your relationship with this woman, Mr. Carter?" Daniel tried to lie. "We're just friends." But Jasmine's lawyer had photos, texts, even a video from a neighbor who had seen Daniel at Diane's home late at night. Often, Amanda stood up in the courtroom, shocked. Her face went pale. "What? You, with Diane?" she screamed. Then, right there in court, Amanda fainted. The guards helped her out as whispers filled the room. Even the judge looked surprised. The courtroom shifted. Daniel no longer looked confident. He looked like a boy caught stealing candy. Then Jasmine stood up. The judge allowed her to speak. She stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. I came into this family hoping to be loved. I was quiet. I was respectful. I tried to fit in, but all I got was silence, control, and shame. I became someone I didn't recognize. She paused and looked at Daniel, then at Amanda, who was now sitting weakly in the back of the room. I am not a servant. I am not a trophy. I am Leah's mother, and I choose to protect her from the silence that destroyed me. The judge nodded slowly, clearly moved. The courtroom was quiet. In that moment, Jasmine knew. She had already won. Maybe not the whole fight yet, but the war had turned. The judge's final decision came 2 weeks later. Jasmine was granted joint custody of Leah, but Daniel's visitation was limited and supervised. The house her mother left her remained fully hers. No one could take it from her. Jasmine didn't cry. She just held Leah close, kissed the top of her head, and whispered, "We're going home." They moved into the small house 2 days later. It was old, but warm. The walls needed paint. The garden was overgrown, but it was theirs. Jasmine and Leah chose soft yellow for the living room and light purple for Leah's bedroom. They painted together, messy but happy. Jasmine returned to teaching. Her classroom felt like home again. The children's laughter reminded her of peace. Her friend Erica helped her settle back in. Jasmine started smiling more, laughing more. Slowly, she came back to life. One evening, as she and Leah ate dinner on the floor of their still empty living room, Leah looked up and said, "Mommy, I like it here. It feels like us." Jasmine smiled. "That's because it is, baby. It's just us now." Weeks passed. One afternoon, Jasmine's phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. "Family is forever. You'll regret this." Jasmine stared at the message for a moment. Then she quietly pressed delete and blocked the number. No reply. No more space for that kind of voice in her life. Daniel came once. He knocked on the door, looking thinner and lost. Jasmine saw him through the window. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't bring Leah's favorite toy. He didn't bring an apology. She didn't open the door. He stood there for a few minutes, then left. Later that evening, Jasmine sat at her desk with a pen in hand. She filled out a simple form and signed it at the bottom. She was officially changing her last name back to her mother's, Okafor. She looked at her signature when she finished. Jasmine Okafor. It felt right. Strong. Heron. She turned off the light, walked to Leah's room and kissed her forehead as she slept. Outside, the sun was warm that afternoon. Jasmine sat in the front row at Leah's kindergarten graduation, wearing a soft blue dress. Her eyes stayed on the little girl in the white gown and paper cap, smiling proudly as she walked across the stage. When they called Leah's name, Jasmine stood and clapped with tears in her eyes. Leah spotted her and ran straight into her arms. "I did it, Mummy," Leah said, wrapping her arms tight around her. "You did, baby. I'm so proud of you," Jasmine whispered. As they hugged, one of the teachers leaned over and said softly, "She's so confident, just like her mum." Jasmine looked up. Her eyes were calm, her smile gentle. For the first time in a long time, the words didn't feel too big. She accepted them. She believed them. Later, as the chairs emptied and families took photos, Jasmine stood by a tree, holding Leah's hand. She looked around at the bright sky, the happy noise, the freedom in her own chest. And in that quiet moment, her mind went back, just for a second, to that night at the retirement party, the heavy tray, the stairs, the silence. She breathed in deep, then said to herself, without anger or regret, just truth. And that night at the retirement party, I carried that tray one last time. Never again. Hey, sweethearts. Thanks so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, share with someone who needs this, and hit that subscribe button. Love you. See you in the next story. Bye.